Be true to who you are. Can anyone here relate to that? Can anybody in here relate to the challenges that we might experience in being true to who we are? Yeah. So I found this fabulous book. It's a really wonderful book. It's called The Great Work of Your Life by Stephen Cope. And I'm going to be teaching a class on it, and I'll talk more about that later. The Great Work of Your Life, isn't the title kind of intimidating? I saw the title and I went, whoa! But it's a guide to the journey of your true calling. And he's wonderfully lays out in here the idea that your calling is yours. It's unique, it's you, and it doesn't look like anybody else's. And our challenge always is to be able to remain true to who we are. So what I love about this particular book is that he brings in the Bhagavad Gita. You say it without thinking and it's fine, and then you try to think about it and you stumble all over it, right? The Bhagavad Gita is a beautiful, beautiful text that is a wisdom teaching. And it translates into meaning the story of the Spirit. So very much the way that we in Unity use the Judeo-Christian wisdom teachings as a way for us to understand our soul's unfoldment, as a way for us to understand how we get to reveal the truth of who we are, our Christ, Buddha, Atman nature. This particular, the Gita, does the same thing. It is a roadmap for us to be able to lay out how do we reveal who we truly are, who it is that we are. It begins with this quote, which really just stopped me when I read the quote. If you bring forth what is within you, it will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you. Now, this is from the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas. That's powerful, isn't it? That if you bring forth the very thing that you are called to be, the very thing that is yours uniquely, nobody else can do it, nobody else can own it. It is that within you that is fabulously just you. It will, quote unquote, save you. Now, we know in Unity that there's nothing you need to be saved from except yourself. Right? Except yourself, except your small, limiting understanding of who you are. That's what you need to be saved from. The smallness of who you think you are. And if you do not bring forth what is within you, it will destroy you. Now, can anybody in here relate to the suffering that we experience when we do not feel alignment with the truest self that we are? Anybody in here relate to how that hurts? Like physically, palpably, painfully hurts when we're out of alignment. And in those moments, we reach for all sorts of things to make it feel better, right? I know me, my big one, I reach for the sugar, right? I reach for the sugar. We all have the things that we reach for. So the invitation through this book, and so I'm going to be talking about this book this week and next week, and then the class is going to start, is how do we actually bring forth what is ours? Now, he uses the term Dharma as that understanding of what we in Unity would call our divine calling or our divine purpose. And Dharma has a lot of translations, right? A lot of translations. So for the purpose of the book, he is talking about your essential nature. And it's comprised of all your little peculiarities, all the things that are idiosyncratic about you, all the things that you probably want to hide, all the things that you don't want other people to see or to know. It's actually part of your essential nature. It's actually part of your Dharma. So another way that we can describe it is your divine calling. Ultimately, what it always is truth. It is always the truth of who you are. So as I'm talking about Dharma, so my talk title is Look to Your Dharma. Look to your essential nature. Look to your peculiarities and idiosyncratic stuff, because you know what? They're a gold mine. Look to the truth of who you are and allow your divine purpose to be made known. So we're looking at the Gita, right? We're looking at the metaphysical interpretation of the Gita. And that story is all about Arjuna and his charioteer, which turns out to actually be Krishna. And there is this huge battle looming between the forces of supposed darkness and the forces of supposed light. And Arjuna is a warrior. That is what he has been born to. That is what he has been trained to. That is sort of who he is. And yet, as we're going to discover, he gets lost. Can anybody in here relate to that? We think we know who we are. We think we understand what is ours to do. And then somewhere in there, we come up against something, and it starts to challenge everything that we thought we knew and understood. So one of the central tenets of this teaching in the Gita, which is a challenging one, you cannot be anyone you wish to be. Wow, that almost feels like it runs right up against what we believe in New Thought. You know, I can see it. If I see it, I can make it happen. I can activate it. I can manifest it. You cannot be anyone you wish to be. I may wish from the bottom of my soul, and I do, that I could sing like Misa Malone. Really. Like, I really wish that. That is like, I often say, if I'm coming back around, I want to come around with that voice. That is what I wish. But it doesn't matter how dedicated my practice is. It doesn't matter how much love and energy and time and effort that I pour into my training, my voice, you know what? I am never going to sound like Miss Misa Malone. You cannot be anyone you wish to be. The truth is, living a fulfilled life means discovering who you actually are. Really take that in. Discovering who you actually are. Not who you think you are. Not the surface understanding. Not the mask that you are presenting to the world because you think that that's how the world wants to see you. But who you actually are. So Thomas Merton has this wonderful quote. Everyone has a vocation to be someone. Now, he put this all in the masculine pronoun. I changed it, just so we're totally clear. Everyone has a vocation to be someone. But they must understand clearly that in order to fulfill this vocation, they can only be one person, themselves. And that's scary sometimes, isn't it? To actually be that vulnerable, to actually be that raw, to actually allow your peculiarities and your idiosyncratic stuff to just kind of hang there. And yet that is the invitation that each of us are invited into again and again and again and again, because the only person you can be is you. And one of the questions that this book asks is, are you living into that fully? And that is the question that Arjuna is asking himself. What is mine to do? So there's this huge battle, and Arjuna shows up, and he does not know that Krishna is his charioteer. He just has this charioteer. Now we're looking at this metaphysically. So can anybody relate to this? We think we're in charge of the chariot. But what is the actual truth? The divinity that you are is actually driving the whole show. But we don't know it. We forget that. It slips away from our understanding. So Arjuna, in his moment of forgetting, surveys the battlefield, and it's a big battle. It feels cataclysmic. It's the end of one age and the beginning of another. Does that sound familiar to anybody in their own life? That you are in a transition of some sort where the ending of one way of being is so alive and the new way of being is so alive. Oh, and what's going to happen? So he goes down and he's surveying it, and he realizes that opposing him is family. Opposing him are kinsmen, is family and friends. And he cannot bring himself to choose to engage in the battle. Can anybody relate to that? The things that are familiar, the things that are around us that we know and appreciate, like we don't want to let them go sometimes. We get attached to them. We think we need them. And so what he does is he settles himself right in the middle of the battlefield, and he just collapses at the bottom of his chariot and says, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. And this is where the Gita takes place. The verses of the Gita take place in the middle of a battlefield that has not begun yet, where the Arjuna is being invited into a choice, and he cannot make a choice. So what he is experiencing and what the Gita is all about is doubt. Doubt. And we're not talking about just skepticism here. Like doubt, the way we might use that in our modern terminology is, oh, I'm just a little skeptical of that. What we're talking about here with this understanding of doubt is we are talking about something that paralyzes you. We are talking about unable to move forward. We're talking about being stuck. We're talking about being smack dab in the middle of two competing, opposing ideas and touching both of them and being like stuck in that, frozen in that. Can anybody in here relate to that experience? In the yogic traditions, they call it the invisible affliction because it's so subtle. Doubt is so subtle. It's insidious. It's everywhere. My homework for you this week is to start looking at your life where doubt is. Where are you sort of stuck between these two things and you're not choosing either because you're paralyzed and you're afraid that I might make the wrong choice or it might mean the wrong thing or what might the consequences be? If I choose A, what's going to happen to B? Oh. It's huge in every decision you're making. That invisible affliction is there. And the invitation of the Gita is to let go of doubt. Let it go. So Arjuna and Krishna are having this amazing conversation. They're literally, so this is what we do when we actually become receptive to the divine within us. So I want to be really clear. The Krishna that I'm speaking of is the Krishna that you are. This is about going within and allowing yourself to touch and engage with the divine wisdom that is present as your life. And as Arjuna collapses on the bottom of the chariot, literally he can't hold his bow and arrow anymore. He talks about how he's clammy and his skin feels weird. I mean, he's having, anybody relate to that? An entire physiological reaction to the fact that he doesn't know what to do. And Krishna says to him, "Oh, Arjuna, where did this delusion descend from at this critical juncture? It bars the gates of heaven. Where did this come from in this critical juncture?" Now, in the story of the Gita, we're talking metaphysically, they've created this huge epic battle. But every moment that you make a choice is a critical junction. Can you feel the truth of that? Every moment, every choice you're making is a critical junction. So it's a delusion. The doubt is not real. Can you see how the divine wisdom that we are knows that? And what that delusion does, what doubt does, is prevent us from being able to see any further towards the divinity that we actually are. It literally bars the gates of heaven within. The heaven that is available and accessible right now as your life. Doubt is the thing you need to be saved from. Does that make sense? He also goes on to say, doubt afflicts the person who lacks faith and will ultimately destroy him. There we are again. This idea that if we are not living fully into our Dharma, that we are actually harming ourselves in the process, that we are actually doing damage to who we are if we don't fully live in to that Dharma. And I love that in Unity teachings, faith is a power. Faith is something that we have available, accessible. We access it. We activate it. So built into our teachings, we have the thing, the mechanism to be able to navigate the doubt when it arises in our awareness. Part of it is, can we recognize doubt when it's there? What are all the other names you call it? Oh, I'm just sitting on it. Oh, I'm going to take a little bit of time. I'll do that tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. Right? All the ways we procrastinate, that's doubt. That is doubt at work. So we all have felt this. Which way do I go? Which way do I go? And what's really cool is it, of course, brings to mind Robert Frost's famous poem, and two roads diverged in a wood. And Robert Frost is actually one of the people in the book that Stephen Cope uses to illustrate and illuminate someone who has lived into their Dharma. So the book itself is really filled with real-life stories of people who have activated the 4 pillars of Dharma to actually be able to live into it. And I love that Robert Frost is one of them. So this is what we all come up against. And the thing that Stephen Cope talks about, which I think is really true, is that we all come to crossroads in our lives all the time. And then the thing is, we don't make a choice. We just kind of let it be. And then we kind of put a little chair there and we get comfy there. We sort of settle in. And then we kind of forget that it was actually a crossroads. We forget that there was a choice. We think that this is what is. And we're just sort of there. So part of the invitation of what this book is about, what the class will be about, is about opening yourself up to recognizing all the places and spaces where you are stuck and may not even know it. May think that it's a quote-unquote given. Well, this part of my life is just a given. Is it? Or was it a crossroads that you just sat yourself down in and haven't moved from? So how do we discern our Dharma? This becomes the biggest question, right? I mean, if Dharma is our true calling, and we're called to show up in it, and we're called to express it as powerfully as we can, how do we do that concretely? And he offers, just the beginning of it is the first step is you got to trust your gift. You have to trust the thing that you have, that you are. You have to trust that it will carry you, it will support you, that it is actually there, underpinning everything for you. You have to trust the gift. You have to think of the small as large. We talk about this a lot, about taking baby steps, about activating something in consciousness. Does not have to happen on this huge, large scale. So while your calling may be, like Susan B. Anthony, who's one of the people that's in the book, to get women the right to vote, which feels huge. What she did was focus step by step by step on each meeting, each talk, each speech, each moment, small pieces, knowing and trusting that that is huge. Not all of our dharmas are going to be that we're going to be imprinted on a coin that nobody uses, right? But that's not going to be all of our dharma, right? Some of our dharma is going to be the best dad ever on the planet. Like, that's our dharma. Our dharma is to be there and to show up and to be present for our kids, and that is what our dharma is. But we need to think of the quote-unquote smallness of that as large. There is nothing in your Dharma that is small. Truly, nothing that is small. When we are aligned with our Dharma, you know it. You've seen people aligned with their Dharma. Their eyes sparkle. They bounce up and down. When I'm up here, guess what, folks? I'm aligned with my Dharma. And you can feel it, though, yeah? You can feel that. And then the last thing is listen for the call of the times. I love that, right? Listen for the call of the times. Because we are here to serve the greatest good. We are divine expressions of a larger expression. So our part of what activates our true Dharma is we listen to what that larger calling is. So she is not in the book, but I just watched RBG the other day. God, I love her. And I felt like, given the events of the past week, that this was somehow fitting. So this is a woman who has followed her Dharma. This is a woman who did not stray, right? Whether you agree with her politically or not is besides the point. She followed her Dharma in a time where women were not in college, let alone in law school, let alone on the Harvard Law Review, right? She was out there following her Dharma, marrying a man who respected her Dharma, finding all the pieces that she needed, aligning them to support her Dharma. She said that her first semester in college, the ratio of men to women was like 6-to-1 or something. And she said that, her first semester, she never went on a repeat date because there were just so many more men. And then she met Marty, her husband. And that was it. She said, he respected my intelligence. She was honoring her Dharma. She wasn't going to settle for something less than that, even though the consciousness of the time was that women shouldn't have jobs. Women shouldn't be lawyers. She graduated from Columbia. She started at Harvard, moved to Columbia because he got work in New York City. And she could not find a single job in New York City. Not a single law firm would hire her because she was a woman. That's simple. Just not even pretending otherwise. We don't hire women here. And you know what? There was no legal recourse because the laws supported that. Legally, the laws supported it. So what did she set out to do? God, I love her. She trusted in her gift, first off, right? She didn't deviate from it. She had kids while she was in law school. Her husband had cancer while she was in law school. She just kept on trusting that what she was doing was going to be supported, and it was. And then she really took this think small as large. She took an isolated case, and then another isolated case, all of them before the Supreme Court, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. And what she was doing was creating a set of laws, bit by bit, slowly by slowly, that was going to transform the consciousness of this country, that would actually enable women to have equal rights under the law. And she listened to the call of the times. She was teaching at Rutgers, and her students started asking her if she would teach a course on women's rights in the legal world. And she started creating coursework, and then she got invited to ACLU, had a special women's rights project, and she spearheaded that with another woman, and she was listening to the times. And the thing that's even more amazing is that her husband listened with her. He would come home and cook and take care of the kids, and she was the one who was working until 7:30. He used to have to try to drag her home for dinner. The woman sleeps 3 hours a night. That's it. She is working all the time because this is her Dharma. Her Dharma was to transform the legal expression of women's rights in this country. And she took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And then she stands in her Dharma, even when she's the one dissenting. And this has become, she's known for this now. I dissent, right? I dissent. She stands in her Dharma, speaking proudly, speaking loudly. And she is now known as the notorious RBG, right? This is what happens when we stand in our Dharma. It doesn't mean that we're going to be completely successful. Can everybody hear that? What it means is that she is living a fulfilled life because she knows exactly who she is. And she doesn't waver from it, and she doesn't pull back from it. She didn't let society's desires or any of that get in the way of the thing that was calling her forth. So Krishna says, better to fail at your own Dharma than to succeed at the Dharma of someone else. What is yours to do? Stop being so doubting. Stop doubting that you have what you need to do it. Stop doubting that the entire world isn't actually there waiting for whatever it is that is yours to do and yours to be. Because if you're living someone else's Dharma, you are destroying yourself. And in destroying yourself, you're destroying part of the world. Because there's only one thing happening. There's only one activity happening. This holographic universe that we live in, what is happening within us is present everywhere. So a big theme of the Gita is about Arjuna learning that the focus is on our spiritual experience, our spiritual nature, the spiritual truth of who we are, rather than the material concerns. And through the course of the Gita, Arjuna has this incredible epiphany. Oh, well, before he has the epiphany, I'm going to give us Rumi's quote. Once we were particles of light, now we are beings of light. And this is what the Gita is wrestling with, this struggle between the awareness that we are a particle of light, and yet the awareness in time and space that I am a being of light. And ultimately, we're all invited to just radiate love. We're all invited to show up as more love. And the only way we can do that is if we know who we truly are. If we are able to release the doubt and we stand in the truth of our own Dharma, then we can radiate love uniquely, powerfully, magnificently, in a way that no one else can. And that is how the world changes. That is how we create a world that works for everyone. And I know sometimes, it feels far away. But the one thing I became aware of as I was watching RBG, the documentary, was just how far we've come. Truly, just how far we've come. And it happens step by step, shift by shift, moment by moment, and it begins in our consciousness. If we are not in alignment with our own Dharma, and we are not radiating that full, clear, unimpeded, then we are actually contributing to the destruction that is life as we understand it. This is our calling. It is that deep. It is that powerful. It is that strong. So at the end of the Gita, Arjuna says, my delusion is destroyed. Isn't that awesome? Right? My delusion of doubt that I'm not enough, that I can't do this, that this is too hard, that I'm not supported, that this is too challenging, that it'll cost too much. My delusion is destroyed. And by your grace, I have regained memory, the memory of divinity, the I am that I am. I stand firm, my doubt dispelled, ready to act on your word. And what we understand that to mean in our understanding is your word is your word, your divine wisdom. Doubt is the enemy of all doers. It freezes us. It makes us immobile. And we are here in time and space to do. We are here, but it has to come from that receptive understanding of who we truly are. This is what we're all called to step into more powerfully, more joyfully. So come take my class. All right? Come take the class. This book is phenomenal. They are for sale in the lobby after service. It's a phenomenal book. The people that you're introduced to, the stories that you get to read about, they open you up. And what they've done for me is make me truly realize and recognize where I'm falling short of my own intention. It's allowing me to find a new way to be able to see what I'm really actually doing as my life, as opposed to what I think I'm doing as my life. And I have a gap there. And so this book is helping to illuminate the gap, which then gives me something to concretely do and activate within myself as I close that gap. So it's going to be on Thursday evenings starting October 18th. You can Zoom in, so it is possible to take the course remotely. For those people who are live streaming, you are welcome to come and take the class with us. Yeah. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me. I'm here to talk about the book. It's really, really powerful. I'm going to move into our time of meditation.